3 years after my first video got posted. I'm in Namibia again, on the exact same spot. So I thought, today I want to talk about the creative process. And I believe it lines up with the last 3 years, 4 years of my life, my walk in the creative process and being part of it, right? So I want to share with you 4 habits, 4 principles that have stood me in good standing in doing creative things. And it's not just limited to YouTube or content creation, but we'll get there. I think the first thing that's really important to remember for the creative process, if you're someone who sees themselves as not being creative, I'd say you are. I think that's part of being human. So I think the first principle is it's godly to be creative. All of creation screams of the creativity of God. And so we learn this characteristic about God, that he is a creative God and delights in creating things. And part of being his creation and being in his image, I believe creativity is a trait we share with him. No, we will never be as creative as him. He had no point of reference and he created everything. We paint a sunset or we take a picture of it, but that's God's creation, right? But I do believe we can partake in creation, not in the sense that we are gods, but in the sense that we are made in his image. And if you say you're not creative, I challenge you to really think deeply about that. Maybe it's just because you've not really explored those avenues to be creative. And I think then this is a video for you. So first thing, it's godly, and it's also good for you to be godly. God created us. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Is that not what the Psalms reflect on? That God has gifted us in various ways, and the creative process looks different for everyone. I think the simplest form of creativity, or most basic form of creativity, would be speaking, because speaking is not something that I've rehearsed, that you've rehearsed. If you've doing a presentation, yes, but when you're talking to people, or filming yourself, recording, or being passionate and expressing yourself, expression is creativity. So when I'm formulating words, this is creative, and the same is with writing. You're not writing something that you remember or have read. You are writing something that you are generating. As you are writing, you are creating. And I think most creators, whatever their avenues are, can attest to this, that being creative is probably the most alive we actually feel. Like, we feel that we are producing something, and it's actually, there's an outcome to it. There's something finite, and there's also a process attached to it. And I think that ties into principle number 2. And I got this from, really helped my thinking, is Rick Rubin. He was on Andrew Huberman's podcast, speaking about the creative process and like writer's block. And the point he made was that you can't focus on the outcome. Because if you're going to focus on the outcome of any creation, I look back 3 years ago, setting off posting that video because I was so scared about what others might think, or what reception I might get from it. Or maybe you're scared of posting your song, or turning your Instagram into a business, or trying to sell your art. Because putting the fruits of your creative process out there is exposing part of yourself, and that's scary. But the creative process, for it to remain genuine, it has to remain authentic and about the process itself, not about the outcome. Because if you focus on the outcome, it's not going to be genuine. Why do I say this? Because you're going to create things specifically for others' expectations. So it becomes so distant and abstract from you and from who you are, that you start losing the zeal for it. Think of artists that so conform their genre into what others might think that the music loses substance, or art that loses substance, or creators that go too mainstream. We all know of them, and we see them and we think, oh, you've lost your touch. So it's about the process. And when you produce something, And it's not about the outcome. You can just delight in the experience you've had, and you can sit back and say, this is a representation of where I am right now. It's not going to be perfect, because if we focus on the outcome, we focus on other people's opinions of the outcome, we're going to pursue perfection. And then it actually just ends up being a failure to launch, right? It's like, it's not perfect, so I'm not going to put it out there. But then you're never going to get better at it. It's like dancing. It's not about the outcome. Like if you're dancing and you're focusing on what other people think of you, you're going to be so anxious, you're not going to have rhythm, you're not going to enjoy it, and then people might point and laugh. But if you're the guy on the dance floor with the worst moves, but you've got a big bright smile on your face and you're enjoying it, I mean, people that will point and laugh are just then actually unhappy because they're not the ones having fun. And the only way to get better at dancing is to actually dance. That's just a slight illustration. So the creative process is about the process. Don't focus on the outcome. Grow consistently, or not even consistently. You'll see in principle 3. But just get better every time. Learn and grow, and it's not going to be perfect. And I don't speak like I've reached it. Just again, I think ties into the theme of the mountain video I did. It's like good is enough. And if it's good for you to make something, then it's achieved its purpose. The purpose is not fame and reclaim, but it's rather you having that enjoyment. It's about you, and it's for you. Number 3, kind of counterintuitive, but procrastination is part of it. Like, that's so real. As someone with ADHD, procrastination is really like a thorn in my side. But I've sort of learned to embrace it. And this is also from a podcast done by Andrew Huberman. I think it was Dr. Adam Grant. And this really hit me, is that procrastination is part of the process. For example, take a writing piece, an assignment. You can finish something the day before. And it can be very robotic, and you can do well. You can get it done, and it's there. But the thing is that creativity takes time. It's like a slow simmer in one's mind. So if you can start earlier with things, thinking about things, for example, writing them down on your notepad or on your phone. Like I've got a folder on my Samsung Notes that I just dot down ideas. And so it's there. So I don't lose them, but I can always reflect and think about them. So it's really like it needs to be refined. It needs to age so that you really can get the best product or best process out of it, right? If you're just going to rush something for the sake of doing it, again, you're losing the outcome. Creativity is not something you can force. It comes naturally as part of existing. And like yesterday night, I had an experience that kind of pushed me to do this. And it was like, it's the outcome of our creativity. It's not just 4 or 3 hours of work into it. It's an entire lifetime of experience, hurt, joy, desires. It's part of us and who we are at that moment. That's a accumulation of everything that has come. So all ideas are essentially procrastinated. So embrace the process. But in that, don't just let procrastination walk over you. Start things earlier. Let them cook, essentially. Let them cook over time. Consistently do a bit, or inconsistently do a bit. Think about it, reflect, read, but take note of things. Be proactive in the process as well. And I think number 4, it's so simple. Just start. It's a very simple a principle or rule or just something to think about. I think it just ties everything together, that if your fear of man is going to result in you not using your talents to share God with people, to share the joy of Christ, don't let that be something you're ashamed of at the day of judgment, where God will reward all of us according to our works. I mean, consider the parable of the talents. Are you going to bury it? because you're scared what other people are going to think, or are you going to use it to best glorify God, to give you joy? And to give other people joy. I mean, if you've ever watched live music or went to an art gallery, there's something about it that just, it's inspiring. It makes you feel so relaxed, makes you wind down, and it relates with a common humanity. And I think that's creativity. And I found myself envying people that I've envied a musician, for example, not in a sinful way, just an expression. But sitting and listening and watching the show and just thinking to myself, wow, he's so in line with himself. Like he's just, this is who he is, and he's embraced it. And my fear is that many of us are living in suppression of our creative sides, living in suppression of our God-given gifts, our God-given selves, that because of fear of the world, fear of other people's opinions, or fear of rejection, fear of, it takes courage to really step out and say, I'm not going to follow the mainstream route or follow the mainstream way of success. I think the happiest people are those creatives. Some creatives are tormented, to be honest. But I think redeemed creatives in Christ can have a lot to contribute. And we need those parts of ourselves to connect with people. So just start. You don't have to be perfect to start. What's that saying? You don't have to be great to start, but it's great to start. I don't think that's how it goes. So this has been 3 years of culmination, 3 years of procrastination to get to this point, where I've set goals for the channel and been proactive in it. Learn to embrace the comments, oh, YouTuber, oh, what's up, guys? And just run with it. Again, people, those that matter don't mind, and those that mind honestly don't matter. Their judgments of your work, of you pursuing your passions or your creativity, and living in line with your talents, that's a reflection on them. It's not a reflection on you. So you can sort of disconnect from other people's opinions. Paul says, if I fear men, why would I be a servant of Christ? I think that's Galatians 1:10. I'm paraphrasing. So yeah, we got a lot that's cooking. It's just, again, procrastinating on a lot of ideas, and also just trying to represent where I am right now, with college life, commuting, trying to live a healthy and balanced life. There's little time, but I do enjoy doing this. It's an outlet, and I hope it can inspire you to pick up the guitar, to start journaling again, start speaking, start recording yourself, make food, draw something, rearrange your room, or decorate your garden. Do and create something and participate in God's divine action. Yeah, know that you're loved, know that you're created, you're redeemed for a purpose, and that is to glorify God. And you can also think creatively about doing that. It's not a linear process, and all of us will one day sing in heaven's choirs in our own way. So be yourself, follow Christ, and be creative.